you. So I guess we technically do have quorum.
Is Kevin not coming?
Kevin is not coming in. Morning. You. So I guess we technically do have quorum. Oh,
Is Kevin not coming?
you're in too.
What is this?
Yeah.
This is the Community Preservation Advisory Board.
I will go down.
She's here for community development.
Oh, gosh. Community.
So much community, so many people early in the morning.
Yeah.
All right, so we are live streaming.
Breakfast, I think, will be very well insulated.
I'm wearing head to toe wool cashmere.
I'm just gonna mute us for a moment.
So I'll do same.
Kevin, we're gonna be sharing, viewing a draft. Looks like.
Policy.
strategy. I just texted it to you.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Okay, got it. Oh,
There's no,
that's
we can't think of another way to do that right now.
decision tree, right?
Yes, decision.
Well, it's like a process.
Wow.
All right, so folks,
Okay.
we. The room,
Oh.
computer and TV are not working and haven't been working since yesterday, so we are going to be using my computer. Kevin is remote. And his address is in the agenda.
I'm in New York.
But I am live streaming and I'm gonna start recording and start the meeting whenever you like.
Okay. Let's call the meeting to order at 8:03.
Great. Okay.
So, Jennifer's here. He was here. Eli is here. Kara is here. Kevin is remote, so
Right.
officially.
Kevin, you can see us and hear us, right? Right?
Yeah, yeah, sure. But yeah,
We should talk louder.
no, I should turn the volume up. That's all.
Okay.
I think we're good.
So, and then Casey's here, so we have a forum. No guests, no public comments. We'll say about the agenda today is we'll skip the parcel prioritization for another month. As we. Send the email out, when you're finished with overall, I guess Cena Hudson's, data. And, as for the application process and board operations, that's gonna be kind of two parts. Shaniqua, you asked us to look at different, towns. I know I reached out to Warwick, I don't know who else reached out as far as with the Red Hook.
I did, but I didn't hear from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe-
out to New Paltz.
So, I'll talk about Warwick, we talk about New Paltz, and that'll lead into your discussion. And so we can, because what I'm finding is that everyone has their own flavor of doing
Yes.
different places. So, the next item is the election of the chair and secretary. So, any discussion? This is a Kingston thing, right, where every year you, is what it is.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be a Kingston thing. It's just the board could decide to elect a chair for 5 years. It's not dictated by me or the city.
So
or the legislation.
we could just not vote and continue things as they are, or you could, there should be a vote to every year.
I believe, well, I would say we should look back, if Kevin could bring up the resolution from the first
Uh-huh.
meeting.
I think it was annual, but, gee, I have to find
Actually, you
that.
know what, I might have it for this one. Yeah, actually, I have it.
Okay,
Let's see, our first meeting was,
see if I, s-
number.
Oh.
June, when did we start? Oh, March, okay.
there it is.
Motion duly made by Jen and seconded by Casey. Kevin was elected secretary unanimously upon motion duly made by Bert and seconded by Jen. Bert was unanimously elected board chair. So it wasn't stated that it would be for a year.
And it hasn't been a year, if we didn't start till March.
That's true. I would say of the other boards that I oversee, one of them, it's prescribed who the chair is, so that person doesn't change. And the other one, we vote annually in January. But it's just always been that way. So I guess this board can decide. What you wanna do. Or technically you can decide what you wanna do. Because there isn't a prescription from the city. On that. It doesn't even say in the legislation that there needs to be a chair and a secretary, but I personally think that maybe should, which is why I had us do that, you all do that in the beginning.
Well, if the county planning board. They elect a new chair, a new vice chair, and secretary every 2 years. That's just, I guess, reading the bylaws. And the Agricultural Environmental Protection Board, the chair can be there for as long as he or she wants. There's no, when they step down, we have to find a new chair. And I would say that it doesn't hurt. That's the way things are. It gives people an opportunity to, step down at a certain point. Like they know that, like if their work or family obligations become too much, they'll say, well, I'll serve out my term. We'll give everyone else time to think about who wants to step up. There is some work here as chair, and to just try to help work with you to move each meeting along. And my case is to fill in the gaps, like with historic preservation, because everyone here is like land trust background. So I would say let's do a vote again. Just kind of, that's the culture here, right? There's value to it. And if anyone wants to be a chair or secretary, speak up now. We can just,
Well, you'll need to accept nominations.
okay.
Well, so, I like that idea. I do think there's something in getting voter confidence every year kind of thing, whether or not it changes. But I think maybe we should do a full year.
Yes.
Cause I think that makes most sense. And then, so that in, I guess it would be the March.
Yeah, the only thing would be then we have to remember in March, that is when the elections would be. Versus. Most other boards, if not all of them, where it starts in January.
Oh, right.
Yeah, typically January is an organizational meeting for most boards that I'm on. I mean, I understand the county may be different. Yeah.
The county legislature uses January as an organizational meeting.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what Julie's doing right here. This is the organizational part of the meeting. Yeah.
Were we prepared to offer nominations today and
I had
vote
no
and
idea.
stuff like that? I just don't feel like
Yeah.
that was on my purview.
So I feel like we should, don't you think we should concretize whatever we like decide, okay, it's gonna be and then like write that down somewhere and have that be the thing?
Someone can make a motion that our next,
Have it every 2 years or something like some.
someone can make a motion that next January could be then the vote for this, the chair. And a secretary. We'll be a different board in a sense, because we should have the application process up. And we may even see a couple applications before we actually have a process, so. So next January, I think would be a good time. And it kind of keeps in sync with the city's, schedule, how they operate their boards. That's what I'm saying, so,
And then do 1 year and then keep 2-year term.
so me and Kevin would do this next year at least. And then next January, we have a vote. We can think about who, you'll be prepared to to nominate someone by then.
But then are we designating it a 1-year term or a 2-year term? I think.
We could do it then, we could figure out then what we want to do.
Yeah, kick it down the road till the next organizational meeting. If you just want to continue the officers the way we are, then fine. If you want to, any of you want to step up, you can have what I'm doing. But otherwise, yeah, continue it till January, next January.
So the motion would be to continue,
I don't even know if you need a motion.
no, yeah, I guess it's by consensus, you're right, yeah, it's.
I mean,
all right.
it was never stated that you needed to, unless you want to make it a formality that although all the other boards are changing, have an organizational meeting in January. Since this board didn't form in January of last year, in order to get back on like a full cycle of,
Yeah. So,
I guess you could do it, you could do a vote, you could not do a vote. I guess you probably should because the intent today was to vote.
yeah,
So you should vote to then not vote today.
so it's clear for the record what we're doing, I
Correct.
mean, a lot of things you can get away with consensus.
Yes.
Here.
Okay, so should I motion?
Yeah, motion.
Is everyone cool?
Sure.
Well, doesn't matter if people are cool when you're motioning.
Oh, okay, because they
Yeah,
can.
but-
Someone can have a second.
Democracy. I motion that we hold our elections in January of 2027. And continue on.
For board chair and board secretary,
Yes.
okay. Hold an election then. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Eli. All in favor, raise your hand.
Okay,
It's unanimous.
Okay.
Okay. The meeting minutes. I have like 3 little grammar items. I could send them to you.
okay. Yeah, I thought there might have been some missing periods someplace. Almost said pyramids.
Yeah, I got a missing pyramid.
Yeah.
Number 6, line 2,
Number 6.
line 2, with the board, period, November.
Oh, is that a period? Oh, I thought that was something on my screen. Okay,
Okay.
yeah.
I have 3, in the big block of text where we talk about what Kayla talked about.
Yes,
The term
that's-
biological survey, before then there's short term, there should be a dash on short term. It's before the biological, it's before the other term, biological survey.
5 lines up from the bottom under number 5.
up from the bottom. The short term, you want a dash in there?
There should be tech, but it doesn't, I mean, it's up to you, I'm just.
Okay, yeah, that didn't come up on the.
In the short
grammar as
term,
well. Okay, that's-
biological surveys will be collected, or is it short-term biological surveys?
It's short term adjective biological survey, so it's like one word. That's why I say that.
Okay.
But it's okay.
That's no big deal.
The
Okay,
other ones are more egregious.
Okay.
The historic preservation prioritization,
yeah,
it shouldn't be an S at historic preservations, discussed interior work on historic preservation. And
oh, yeah, all right, that's easy.
then the first in that paragraph, CPAB, put a little S, because that's plural, CPABs concentrate on land conservation.
Yeah, I was, all right, yeah,
You can leave it out, it's like a stylistic thing, I just brought it up.
yeah, I had it and it just didn't look
Oh,
right.
the grammar, you said no, okay.
Yeah, right. It was one of those. So, yeah, well, yeah, I can put it back in. That's no big deal.
But that's all I had.
Okay. Then we got all the grammaticals and there was nothing substantive. My methodology here was, I took the notes. I went back to the transcript and that confirms the numbers, but the text can be like, not so much. And then I, went back, I captured everybody's slides. And I worked Kyla, whatever was missing there from her presentation was in the slides. So I captured that. And I thought Julie's slides were excellent on the city role in open space acquisition. And I did compare that to Kingston Land Trust, and it was pretty similar. And I would think there were other land trusts I've looked at previously, and it was right in the same ballpark. So I think that language was really pretty good. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes as amended.
Okay.
Casey seconded, all in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, passes unanimously. So now it's the transfer tax.
Right, hold on your hat, people.
Mm.
Wow,
Whoa,
became popular all of a sudden.
what the heck? Mhm.
Someone's like, it's too cold and snowy, I'm leaving.
So, for Kevin, who didn't get the big effect. This is our map and look at December.
Okay.
So, we will look at the blue side. We brought in 30, oh, okay, in December, we brought in $198,561.25,
Mm.
which nearly doubled the entire month.
Right.
In December, sales in the city were $30,017,903. There were 58 transfers, still not actually the most in the year. 33 of those were exempt. By the way, no one was, and 25 transactions were paid, meaning 25 were eligible and 25 paid. So no one actually was exempt from the transfer tax that was eligible. So 43% of our transactions this month were subject to the tax, which is the highest of the year. The average transaction was $7,942.64, the highest of the year. I already mentioned that the real estate transfer tax that we brought in, $198,561.25. So closing out 2025, the total fund is $473,068.02. Primarily, what drove this up were a handful of very high transfers. There was $1 million sale. I'm sorry, there was an $8 million sale, and I will pass this around. There was a 1.4, a 2 million, and a 1.6. The $8 million sale, folks alone paid $94,687.50 into this fund. Almost $100,000 from one
Is
transaction.
that a commercial building?
Yes. So. I makes the chart look like that. So exciting, like so exciting. My jaw dropped when I got this. And big sales like that have other implications in the city, just for, since it's commercial, just.
Typically, you get a lot in December. There's a lot of people that have to close by year end for tax purposes. So.
Oh, okay, interesting. So that said, we are at the end of the year. This is now what the whole year looks like. And I'm gonna start tracking next year. And I just had a question for you all about, how, just the technicality, what you want me to present to you. So my goal was to, on the white side of the paper, to just add another column, which would then be 24, 25, 26, and on the graph, I would add the new year in a different color.
Okay,
But on the back, do you want how do you want to compare this data, or do you not want to compare and you just want to see the new data for the new year? Either I can keep going down, but that'll go forever, it's the report goes on forever. Or I can wipe this all out, or leave the December final and then start the new year. Like, are we gonna wanna see,
Think if you have.
or maybe the average from this year compared? I mean, this side of the chart will clearly be able to say, okay, January of last year, it was this bar and now it's this bar. But on this side where the actual data is. I'd like to just keep it on one sheet of paper that I'm giving you every month.
You collapse the previous year into just one row,
Sounds good.
Into one row,
yeah, at the top, and start with the new one.
and would that be the total, like the year end or
Yeah.
December?
You're
Year end, okay, good. Will do. So any questions, comments on the report?
If I could get the December revenue again, I think it was 30 something thousand, you said?
For the total sales of the city,
Yeah, for December, yeah, usually I capture that.
okay.
It'll-
I'm just gonna say the numbers.
Yeah.
30,017,903. 30,017,903.
In December alone,
Yeah.
30 million.
30 million,
Okay, 30 million,
017,
17
903.
903, okay.
Yeah, this is like last month it was 6.9 million. This year it was, this month it was, December was 30 million.
30 million, so the total received to date, wait, I'm getting confused. If we have 30 million in December alone, what, I only got 473,000 to date in the fund.
Right, okay. So the number that I just told you, the 30 million, is the
Yeah.
total number of sales in the city.
Oh, total, no, I just needed the revenue. I don't need the total.
Okay. The revenue in December was 198,566.05.
Okay,
198,500.
all right, that makes sense, okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
Kevin's like, whoa, we have 30 million.
Wow, yeah, let's, yeah, right, okay.
All right,
And there were exemptions, did I hear 33 exemptions, or did I hear 30, something with 33?
okay, so
Then it was
25
something-
transactions were paid. 25 transactions were paid, and none
Right.
of those were, all of them, everyone who was eligible to pay paid. So in that matter, there were no exemptions. But there, what we call exemptions, there were 58 total number of transfers, and 25 out of those 58 paid the transfer tax, meaning 33 transfers did not pay it.
Oh, they were nominal or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay. Any other questions on the tax, real estate transfer tax? Nope. Let's head into old business. I was able to get in contact with Southampton. I learned that there was some activity with their community preservation funds, historic preservation projects. And I guess the short end of the story is that they're way more advanced and far along in how they do this than we are. They do the things that I wasn't sure how they'd be approached in New York State. But they have a close partnership with their town historian and their own landmarks preservation commission. And they're very much involved. They do a lot of the review of these historic preservation projects. So it's a situation where, let's say someone wants a historic preservation easement on their property, and they first go through the community preservation part of the thing. The director of community preservation. That, application gets sent to the historic landmarks preservation commission and to the town historian. Or if they're looking to buy a property. It's it's not the community preservation board, it's the Historic Landmarks Commission. If they see something that is worth looking into, first it has to come on the market and that the sellers are willing to sell to them as opposed to like the highest bidder, should be another private transaction. Then they can, go ahead and, doing what they do there and trying to preserve the property. I don't know how much money they have in total, but they have millions of dollars. And historic preservation is not, it's like the last on their list. It's really water quality improvement projects down there, farmland preservation, Suffolk County. And it's just if the opportunity presents itself, they'll do historic preservation work. I guess some of the more well-known projects they've worked on is that they preserved John Steinbeck's cottage, his house. His descendants were willing to work with them. So their community preservation fund, allocated a portion of the money. It was $11.2 million. That was in the whole transaction.
To the Steinbeck project.
Yes, to purchase their development rights, and part of their money goes towards stewardship, but these are like the historical society. In the case of the Steinbeck house, it's the University of Texas that's the steward. They have writers' workshops, and on Saturdays in the summer you can go there and stuff. So it's it was fun listening to. I mean, I had emails with their director of community preservation. That's the title there. I spoke for 40 minutes to the town historian, exchanged emails with one of the town attorneys, and so they're more than willing to help. They're well aware of Kingston and all the historic properties, and we're talking about damage done during the Revolutionary War between the two towns. So they are a resource, Kevin.
Yeah. They're
Um,
also under the town law. All the towns in Long Island that are doing this in the East End are under the town law, as opposed to the law we're under, which is the general municipal law.
Yeah, it's
There's some language in our law on historic that's a little different from theirs.
a little different, yeah.
Ours is more like isn't as fleshed out as the Long Island law.
The law I saw in Southampton, it's very clear that
Yeah.
for state and federal funds, it's the Historic Landmarks Preservation Commission that will make the recommendation. As far as these local funds from the Community Preservation Fund, what happens is the town historian will look at a project, whether it's a facade easement or development rights, and will either say it's worth going ahead with community preservation funds or it's not. They make that preservation to the Community Preservation Advisory Board there. And it's up to the Community Preservation Advisory Board to either run with it and say we want to fund it, and then it's up to that board, the Community Preservation Board, to put a dollar value. But they haven't done the analysis. It's the historic preservation professionals that have done the analysis for them, and presents to them. So, but this is kind of infrequent, but when they do embark on a project, it tends to be a big one. I mean, they're using something called a facade easement on, they've done it with cinemas down there and the theaters, a playhouse. And those are about $4 million, for that easement, that basically restricts what you can do on the outside of the building, restricts the land use. That's a case where they would go directly to the preservation board, and the preservation board ask for a review from the town historian. And as for these other properties, it's just when they do get purchased properties, they can, but there really has to be a game plan, and we're not set up. They know the historical societies they want to work with. They're prepared to pay for stewardship to those historical societies. There's one house of an artist that they bought that's the case. So there's like the two different organizations are paying stewardship fees to one of their funds. Another thing that's interesting, but I guess because it's New York, and I guess Florida and California come under the same things, that they're looking to preserve a nightclub. There's a lifeguard, life-saving station, Coast Guard life-saving station. But it's apparently a big deal, it's open. So that's gonna cost a lot of money. But that's just an example of how it kind of takes on its own flavor. You know, and there seems to be a lot of community support, so. I guess yeah, we're years down the line from doing what they do. Everything from understanding the relationship with, you know, I guess the historic preservation specialist here and, understanding the pots of funds. They have additional pots of funds that they could use. It's here, the town law. And Massachusetts benefits from this too. I spoke to someone in Ulster County. The Southampton has a Southampton Landmarks Maintenance Award Program. They're throwing together a lot of money for really projects that cost millions of dollars, preservation projects. So this is kind of long term. But that does leave open our smaller, we'll learn, I guess, about one at the end of this meeting, you know, mechanical repairs to some of our historic buildings. And like I said in our last meeting, ship over weeks, you know, something State Historic Preservation Office here in New York. So that's I think for the time being, there's not much to talk about on historic preservation. I'm hoping that the Historic Landmarks Commission will pick this up and have a dialogue.
They've already have, I've already had that with Ethan. Ethan has already spoken to me, and I think, I didn't speak to Sue, but if you look down on the agenda, the Fireman's Museum is on the agenda somewhere, down at the bottom.
So,
And
you know,
that probably came out of that discussion, but I didn't discuss the Fireman's Museum.
Ethan is free to reach out to the town historian at Southampton.
Mhm.
They're happy to be a sounding board for us. They seem to want to see us succeed, so. He's the historic preservation specialist here.
Ethan Dickerman.
Okay, any questions? We probably won't have historic preservation on the meeting agenda for the next meeting.
You know, I do have one question. I still don't understand how we would open up funds for interior work that you're suggesting. If it's not something that's open to the public.
It has to be open to the public.
Okay,
That's what the fire is.
and so it has to be some points open to the public, and it's okay for us to use it on the property that we didn't buy.
Yes, for mechanical repairs.
Okay,
Yeah, it's fine.
that's the law's written that way.
The law's written out there.
Okay.
So we're gonna do like modest historic preservation projects.
Yeah, I just didn't understand, like, it didn't read that way to me, but I'm not a lawyer.
I went in, but they're doing a full spectrum of historic preservation projects.
I meant our.
Yeah, I understand, yeah, what you said at the last meeting, but we can,
Are we still in the research phases or are we developing a policy according to what you guys are saying?
we're not in the research phase right now. I feel I've carried it as far as I can. I would have to have a discussion with the Historic Landmarks Commission or Julie to really to further develop this, but there's a lot of stuff that's quite frankly over my head. Like that there's the way they organize, they work with historical societies, they have a lawyer on staff that works with them. There's like a whole apparatus.
So I was under the impression that we're still gathering information in order to make a determination of how we would actually apply funds to a landmark site.
I think what I'm saying is, I guess when we put our application process, we do modest projects. Mechanical, what they told me that the State Historic Preservation Office like HVAC.
So that's your
systems.
recommendation is what you're
That's,
saying?
yeah, okay, that's my recommendation.
So are we supposed to vote on your recommendation? And if so, is that vote premature right now?
It's premature. I would say when we have an application process, we'll spell out what we want,
Gotcha,
and then we can vote that.
okay.
I've been trying to narrow it down. But I have a better sense of why a lot of towns in New York State just don't do this. It's complicated. You said it's really fun.
It opens up also just like,
Oh, in Boston.
like unlimited, too much.
Well, Boston, Massachusetts addresses First Amendment issues. Sorry. With iconography. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. But I think someone's air conditioning and heating system. It can be their purview. So moving on. You remember from prior meetings, Julie and I talked about there's a push from the county to want to work with these different community preservation advisory boards. And if I seem leery, it's because I didn't understand where this was coming from exactly in that organization and what was the intent. I just knew there was some push. So I finally got in contact with the director of the Department of Environment there, Andy Bicking. You would. And he said it's coming from the Environmental Management Council, which is, it's not something I have anything to do with. It's a bunch of, it's political appointments from the executive's office and the legislature. And they want to do something. And, I asked Andy, what is something? And I guess you had some conversation with the county maybe, or someone,
I spoke with Andy,
Andy.
but very early on, he was trying to take the temperature of like, what department would manage this, who would be driving this, and he was gonna go back to the EMC.
Okay.
But I haven't spoken to him since that, was a couple months ago.
All right. At the end of last year, end of December, I spoke with Andy, came to the planning department, spoke, and basically they're looking to offer technical assistance. And so I think what would benefit this board is that we could go to the county clerk. And I guess we have to print documents, they can waive the fees. We have to do deed research. I don't know if we need GIS assistance, because we have people here that can do GIS. But there's, I think, the staff member in the Department of Environment, Misha, knows GIS. And there's that type of assistance would be valuable to people in New Paltz, people in Gardner who may not have. And from what I understand, the community preservation boards out in the towns are happy to have the assistance. I just wanted clarity what the role is, because I get leery. Because talking to Andy at first, they weren't sure, maybe they want talking about public outreach. I said the public outreach was done for the plan, we're implementing the plan. And then when we have a project that we want to fund, there'll be a public hearing. So it's spelled out. And I told him about what I was learning, talking to the different towns out there and reviewing Massachusetts, and I'm saying they do things differently, but they do things within the law. The law is going to be broad enough that they can accommodate different working styles. And he appreciated that. And I said that, I made the point that what we realized in our first meeting, we're like the first city. And Southampton was interested, we're the first city, we're more urban. And we're gonna need to get our own bearings. And so I'm just worried about an outside entity who has kind of its own idea of how to do things. So the thing is, Andy said that he wants to organize a meeting of representatives from each of the Ulster County preservation boards. You have time during the day. You definitely, I said, it's you basically to represent us as part of your job description. So, and then you can compare notes. I basically told him just keep it practical. And this kind of because I told him like in Claremont, it's all agricultural conservation. They could do a lot of other things, but if you know what's going on up there with farmland, there's just these pitched battles with like solar development companies going on up there. So I don't blame them, and then they're doing what Warwick, a company called Warwick, and Warwick is just all agricultural conservation. And there was a big problem to protect the black dirt country, the onion growers there, and they do nothing else, you know, and then, you know, out on Long Island, they want to preserve nightclubs, which are very cultural institutions.
Yeah.
Everyone is different, you know, but I think it's all important to, because we're helping, you know, doing with like placemaking. We're reflecting local values, and that's what I told them, so. So that's my report on Ulster County. Basically, someone will reach out to Julie and they'll try to schedule some sort of meeting 2 to 4 times a year. They'll have Gardner and New Paltz, I guess Rochester at this point,
Marbletown.
Marbletown, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
Should I remove this from the agenda then?
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
going to, just to, for everyone knows my agenda with this, is I'm also going to push for the county to be providing interpretation services. So like, we're not all interpreting it differently, we're all interpreting it the same way, and the county is saying, if you're in this county, we're under these laws, then this means you can do this, or you can't do this, and interpretation services. I don't know if they will have that available, but I think it's just very piecemeal for each community to either take on an attorney or use their corporation counsel to do it. Not interpretation like, I mean, interpretation like understanding. Like, what does it mean?
when you said that the Kingston's Corporation Council, her finding was that we could provide funding for the roundabout uplands for the bond.
Correct, that's the only thing that I've asked so far through council, but I've got a whole list of things. And that kind of thing, every community is going to have. So like if the county could be a centralized, like the county takes on the burden of whoever's doing the interpretation, the attorney or the council,
That makes sense.
then we can just not have every attorney or every council in every town have to fully understand that law. We just need someone at the county to understand the law.
Because I told you Marbletown's interpretation, and Rich Perry asked me when I learned Kingston's interpretation to let him know. I sent him an email about, you know, what, how Kingston sees funding such projects.
Okay. They had a separate interpretation that was different,
That was different, yes,
meaning no.
meaning no.
This is why the interpretations need to be consolidated.
Yeah.
Because if my lawyer is saying, you gotta go ahead, and Marbletown's lawyer is saying, no. That's 2 communities under the same law that are interpreting it differently and proceeding differently and operating differently in their municipalities.
And then the fear is you're open to lawsuits if someone's like, that's not actually what the law says.
I don't know legal stuff, but I would think that someone could say. There's precedent in Marbletown for doing it under the same exact law, how is the precedent not happening here, or vice versa? Absolutely, but yes, I would think that.
That goes back to the precedent discussion from
Yeah.
the previous meeting. Yes.
Right, what's precedent?
Well, that's typically a court case. That's it.
Right.
They're fighting a case. Hey, look at something. I'll just throw out, Mr. Moriello, who represents a lot of people before the planning board. If you look at when he does a presentation, he has all these citations. He's using those as precedents to
Okay,
show that this board can do what it can do because the judge in a different case in New York State ruled X, Y, or Z.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the gist of it.
and I don't know if there's some like. Higher level council that will come back and be like, Kingston, you weren't supposed to give so-and-so money for that, you interpreted it wrong, take the money back.
Well,
Or if it would just be somebody from Marbletown being like, I have a historic building, I wanna change my refrigerator. In Kingston, you guys gave money to somebody to change their refrigerator, why can't I?
Why does it have to be this comparison As we interpret the law, and we were talking about culture, like what's important to a certain location, you know, so this is important to us, and this is how we have interpreted our law that works for our city.
Yes.
You're doing that, oh, that's great, that's your business, you know, we all have our councils that like, what is it, sanction what we're doing.
Yeah, and that could be the case too.
Would be a beautiful world.
Yeah. More autonomy for everybody.
Live there.
So I'll look to hear from Andy.
Okay. Julie, what's the latest on the runaround?
So while as at this December meeting, we thought we may be a really long way from having anywhere near the amount of money that was necessary to pay back the bond. Instantly, there now it's, and so, to get back to the point that I brought up at the last meeting, the bond gets paid off in August. And in order to proceed through the process of getting approvals through the common council, a communication to the council from this board would need to be to the common council by May 1st. So I'm just going to say that now, knowing that there's enough money in the fund, I'm going to be submitting a proposal next month to this board to fund and pay the bond out of the community preservation fund. And that would be in May, that would be a February communication here, and if that were adopted or considered or whatever, I mean, you could table it, whatever, but that gives us until May 1st to oh no, because it's gonna be before that, because there's gonna be a public hearing.
Does the bond need to be paid in full?
I will find that out.
August 1st, or can it be a portion? Instead of completely draining.
Yeah. So I also need to figure out the timing. Can you bring up the law what it says about the public hearing? I don't know how that happens, or how much time is needed for that. So then there's even less time before May 1st.
But also, so we're obviously not ready.
Oh, no, but you're not ready.
Well,
I mean, I'm just gonna state the obvious. I mean, we haven't even gotten to like talk about like basic. Like overall process, much less what would happen internally. So I'm just curious about like what are the options if we can't get it done by then in a way that doesn't totally overstep all of our like internal process.
Way to go.
I would if I bring a proposal to you all and you say, we're not ready for this, then you just start declining.
Okay.
Just like when Sue Cahill brought a proposal
Yeah,
later on the agenda for the Volunteer Firemen's Museum HVAC. You could say, we're not ready yet.
I see. Okay.
And people could say, but you have the money and it's been almost a year. And you can say, we're still developing our processes, whatever you wanna say.
Is that, well, I guess, you know, that's a political thing. It's a political decision to do that to this board. So I'm just
Oh, to
curious.
bring a
about-
proposal here?
Yeah, to force that situation that you just laid out.
Hmm.
That would be a political decision to, I mean. I'm just curious, like, what happens if we can't do it and the city has to wait? Even if our intent is to fund it, that the city has to wait. Because the city didn't get the CPAD 2 years ago, we got it a year ago.
Mhm.
So like, what is the?
I'll find out more from corporation, from my comptroller about like what it means to pay off the bond, how the timing works. Is it a once a year thing only?
Yeah.
Is it in full?
Because I wouldn't want to confuse the willingness of the board to participate in helping the city in this. With our need to do a careful process to make sure that we're a strong and functional and efficient thing for the community.
Yeah.
So it would really, that kind of, if there's a way to avoid that, I think it would be best for the long-term health of And also for the city.
I also, I was just gonna say something else.
So we're still seeing a proposal.
Yes.
Should go through the trouble of drafting a proposal.
Well, I mean, we should go through the trouble of figuring out a process first, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying, but I don't think we even have a
It's Jamie's
process.
job to.
Yeah, so that's the city's decision to do that,
Okay,
but we have to internally have some sense of process and that kind of thing. I don't think under the crucible of the city. I don't. Figuring out process under that kind of duress is not gonna be. I don't think that's good.
I'm picking up. Whatever, when you, Shaniqua, you made the point about the amount of money we have, you know, currently. You said there, that this board is not entirely company.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know, we might be. But I don't understand how we can have a good process when you don't have a process yet. That's
How can
all.
we consider a proposal when?
I'm like, what does a proposal gonna even look like? Like, how are we?
There's a way, like, if they gave us the proposal in advance, we got a chance to look, and it let. Hypothetically, sometime in February, we get a proposal that's. It's, you know, worth looking at, say, it's been fleshed out. And then you can vote in February, whether or not to entertain that proposal, and then use the next month to try to. Get some questions answered. And then vote on it in March.
I do not see how that's possible eventually process, but I mean, I'd like to hear from other folks. I mean, we don't even have. a process yet.
You see, there is a process that it's like using Robert's Rules of Order. And, but, you know, the only thing is that we haven't given guidelines for what a proposal looks like. Without a formal application process, we're kind of saying, I'm saying like 2 weeks before the next meeting, there's a proposal. So that's the advantage of having an application process. But it's still possible to make a decision. You know, given enough time with the right proposal, but what I'm hearing is that it's. The board is not comfortable. I mean.
Well, I guess, you know, we have not gotten to the vote. You would know if we're comfortable when we actually get to the vote. Right now, Eli is just
Okay,
expressing something that we can consider,
yeah,
I suppose.
We could always state that there's an interim process until our final process is complete. And if we want to entertain any proposals before that, it falls under that interim process.
all right,
Whatever that is,
interim, yeah.
and then, you know. But
Those are all options, but have we had it? Okay, I mean, those are options, but that's a,
From my perspective, it's, if I feel like this proposal is just gonna get shot down, don't really, it's a waste of time. I feel like that if you're seriously considering the proposal, then you have to seriously consider interim process. Or we have to work really fast to get a formal process.
Do we have an interim process?
Yeah,
Or would we just say,
What I just said is Robert's Rules of Order. That's how meetings are in boards work all around the world.
do we all agree on that?
no. I don't think so. It's interesting to me, I think, let's get to the conversation about process then. And then be able to have as a board a really clear conversation about what our process will be, either interim or full. I think that's what's been missing from the work that we've been doing. We've been gathering information. I think we've been taking exactly the amount of time that other boards do.
Yeah, I agree.
Before they make huge decisions, like, I mean, how much is the bond?
440.
Yeah, so whether or not there is intent to fund that and work with the city on helping with that, which I think there is. There isn't, that's a huge transaction. And it will be the first transaction that this board makes. And so I just feel strongly that we need to all be clear on the process. Like, and have some agreements as a group on what the process is. So if an interim process happens, that's great. But we need to have a conversation on what is an interim process.
Well, what
And
is
how do we
the process?
incorporate how do
If
we?
we can move on, let's kind of move on. We're having, and then we'll circle around to which new policy war with it. Let's fill
Um,
it with the
the-
clock.
Helpful to look at section 8 of the general municipal law that we're, authorized under. That's the section on hearings. Without, there's no timelines in the hearings, but the last sentence says, any resolution of a governing body approving an acquisition of interests or rights in real property pursuant to this section shall find that acquisition was the best alternative for the protection of community character of all the reasonable alternatives available to the designated community. So I think to approve this, we would have to, this proposal, a theoretical proposal, because we don't have it yet, would be to find that it's in the best interests of the community character, the best alternative for the community character. And I think you could do that by doing a consistency review against the open space plan and the community preservation plan, both, but more importantly, the community preservation plan. Does that make sense? That would be sort of an interim on the fly way of doing it if it had to be done.
I didn't catch that. How does that boil? So you're saying we could vote? There is an interim process that you see?
Well, it doesn't say that there isn't.
Okay,
Just like it doesn't have all the historic stuff that Southampton has. This law is different than what they're doing out there in other places. But and Warwick is separate too. That's a whole another different thing. Yeah, it just mentions the resolution. What you would have to consider in an acquisition resolution.
Thank you.
I can put that in the chat, but you probably can't all see it.
no,
You're right. I could, I can email this offline to everybody, the entire code, and you can take a look at it and,
That'd be great.
so
they'll do.
with the process with Warwick. You take the application, it's an application packet, offline. Just you can download, it's about 40 pages. The first 8 or 9 pages is really the actual application. And there's no timeline spent, the next step would be a farm visit. But they just say that they could contact you before and after for information on the farm visit. And the farm visit, having done it myself, or just information here. And then when they're comfortable, then they schedule a meeting of their community preservation advisory board. And they're the type of community board, and our farmland protection board is like this, they meet as needed when there's a project. So this project has come along, this farmland protection project. They've done the farm visit, they've done their due diligence, their research. Then they have the community preservation board meet, they make their recommendation, they have their public hearing, and then they finish out the application packet, which is just the easement. And that's their process. It's kind of informal, but it works. You know, they meet as needed. And the project has to be further enough along before they'll have a meeting to make a recommendation. And they're doing it to the exclusion of all other types of projects. That's what's important to them.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
No, I was just gonna say, it just reminds me of Marbletown and how they also had this bond hanging over them while they were trying to, get their process in order. Who can also be a good resource to find out if they had an interim policy or anything like that.
That's a good point. I think, just to be honest, like, given the time and so the process the draft process that I put together here is laid out as the process that we'll use, like, as soon as we can get it up and running. Is it okay if I move on to this?
Yeah.
Because, okay, so, it's just the flow chart nothing fancy. The pink is where we get out external input, so those are the applications. The blue, the dark blue is processes that are internal to the CPAB. The triangles are decision moments. And then, so you'll see it, you can follow the arrows through to, and I got us to beginning a project. Because God knows what goes into that whole other thing. But yeah, I'm sorry, not triangles. Whatever those called. Diamonds, sorry. Two triangles together. Sorry about it. Diamonds. Okay. So the diamonds are the decision points. So on top, the green little pieces of paper things are questions that I had that I thought identified that I thought that we needed as a board to discuss together in order to sort out how each step happens. They're just off the top of my head, the questions that I had, there's probably a million more. And then underneath the light blue pieces of paper thingies are actual forms that need to be created by this body so that we can actually step through the process. Some of them, and what I realized in designing this is that some of these things in the bottom, we've already got some drafts and samples of. We've been gathering that information from these different other community preservation funds or boards. So this was my attempt to try to kind of put together a process by which we can agree on this kind of beginning with the pre-app going all the way through to a project happening. And it basically, it means that, I mean, some of these questions aren't huge that we could sort out. So I don't think not every single question would take a lot of time. The places that would take time and where we actually will need to have conversations that outline our priorities and what we think is special about our board in terms of quirkiness around being a city and what is, what we want to focus on. Those kinds of conversations probably need to happen within the project of creating these forms. So if we create a pre-application, what are the questions we're going to ask? Why are we going to ask those questions? How are those questions going to inform our process, right? And so then we have to have those kinds of conversations, like what kind of information do we want when someone does the pre-application? And then are we as a board going to want to, all of us look at pre-applications, or do we want someone who's the chair basically looking at them initially and being like yes or no, because this doesn't even fit the criteria, so that's not even worth the board's time, or this needs to come, or does the board, all of us together, decide when the pre-application comes in? So it's those kinds of questions, and that's true of the full application and all of these. There's going to be discussions that we have to have internally about what do these forms ask for and what does it reflect in terms of our values and our priorities. Okay? So to the extent that this is helpful, we can use this. We could talk about the process together right now. We could talk about some of the questions that I had that might inform the process. But I think the most important is assigning tasks that are specific to designing these forms that we need. And that those tasks, whoever takes them on and is the lead on that, would be seen as someone who would help us gather all the drafts of forms that we've got together, pull them together, try to make them reflect the decision, the priorities that we've already put together, some of the conversations that we've had, the conversations we had about priorities, and bring them to the board for a draft. Have those conversations. Does that make sense? And to me, but this is just how I work. The discreteness made me feel better. But we do have major questions still. Like, are we going to do rolling applications? Like, are we going to do rolling proposals? Which I think we should. But do we need to say, yes, we're doing rolling applications?
Yeah, that's.
And that is our decision next. Now this is how the pre-application is going to look. Now do you know what I'm saying? Like, those are the kinds of conversations that we haven't.
See, we can do rolling allocations. We can do, this is great here, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
You're not violating the law. If I've learned anything, is that other people have different ways of doing this. This is that, are we comfortable doing an interim application? And that should be clear. If we are, it's worth Kingston's time and effort to send in something sooner rather than later.
Well, so that, and that is fine, so that's fine, so this is what I have here, which is for like the larger process. These are the things that we can work towards in terms of establishing ourselves as a, you know, and really having a strong board understanding of what we're doing. With an interim process, I think that that's something that, you know, this would have been something that we would spend time on now, I think, if we didn't have to now figure out an interim process, which is fine. But I think we should spend our time figuring out an interim process and agree together, what is the interim process?
Well, you have items right here that we can use. It's spelled out, you know, at least in the middle.
Thank you, by the way, for.
Yeah.
putting this in. That's great.
Thanks.
I think it's nice, yeah.
But I said I was gonna do 2 months ago, so, so at least I get
I
that.
also feel like we should,
Would you want me to take, Eli, would you want me to take your document and turn it into a text document?
If you want, if that's helpful, yeah. Sure.
Okay, can do. This is great. Yeah, this works. I think, and it'd be open for comment then from everybody else. You know, we would
Yeah.
send that out and people would,
It's a draft, it's a dummy.
yeah, right, exactly. It's not finalized, but it may serve
you know,
interim.
but I feel
And
like
it-
we also
It
keep,
provided something to comment on.
feel like
okay.
we also keep missing or not talking about the breakdown of what percentage we will actually drain this fund each year. And I think that's something.
Yeah, right, exactly. That could be a comment to the document for sure.
Right, because that's gonna impact how much we spend each year. And how many, what kind of. I mean, and that leads to, can we pay this bond in chunks, you know, because.
Mhm.
You know, we don't necessarily want to drain the entire amount for one thing this year. Or do we? You know, or do we wanna do a percentage towards historical preservation, a percentage towards, you know, land acquisition. Percentage towards conservation easements, whatever it is, you know, do we, and then if we don't get any. Conservation easement requests that year, that percentage can either stay, you know, what do we do with that percentage? Does it stay in the fund or do we allocate a little more towards some other projects?
That's the practical matter. You
Right.
hit the nail on the head. It's basically. You know, we have just enough money to fund. You know, this project, the Roundup project, but we drain all the money.
So we need to not only come up with a process, but we need to figure out what kind of percentage we want, so. Maybe that's something we figure out from some of the other communities is what percentage of what they have do they allocate each year?
Even though I know, Matt, in a way, I pressed for an interim, supported an interim application process. As far as this project here, it would drain most of the funds, so we kind of answered our question, we're not,
But that's what should
Are we
look to see if it can be paid.
if it can be paid.
I think the board also needs to decide if there is an issue if the fund is drained. It's continuously gaining fund.
Right,
So is there an issue with draining it entirely?
if we have a crash in the housing or real estate market.
Right,
and
I
have
mean,
nothing.
yeah, I don't know.
I think that answers the question to me. That we're not comfortable at this point. We're still forming, I understand, we may have the interim application for fireman's museum, that's another story. But if we use all the money, then yes, there is a housing crash or something.
And then everybody suddenly hates the community preservation fund because it's not doing the things that it all went towards one thing and it's not doing anything.
And it was towards one thing that was city that was
Right.
sort of had internal, it's a
Right.
bad optics if.
Yes.
So that's, if there was more money, you know,
Well, there will be more money.
That's,
way more money, because January, I don't know, yes, everyone's trying to sell off in December. January is still gonna pull something in, so is February and March.
Alright.
I think, so, I'm just gonna say it again, could we actually, instead of talking about the details right now, could we figure out what is gonna be our process to figure out the interim thing?
Yes.
That's all I'm asking.
It's-
Is that can we, because we keep jumping around, which is great, but I want to know, okay, so can we identify the conversations and decisions that we need to make in order to have an interim process? That's,
You gotta leave the conversation. You, Eli,
okay.
I
So that,
think you move along. What do you see? Lead the conversation.
That's all that's most important is our decision making process.
all right,
I
so,
like your questions here.
yeah.
I
so
think we
make
can go
it-
through and answer these
Because you
questions.
have consensus, you have majority rules, is.
Oh, right, okay, so our book. So, so what I've got is I've got managing the fund financially. Right, so whether we drain it or not, what is our decision-making process? It's another question that we have to answer for an interim. process.
Lead the conversation.
So-
What do you want to hear?
I'm asking folks what other questions might be,
Other
that they might
questions.
have.
Who is taking in the applications? Is it Bert or is it me?
Okay, so
Where is the application?
Where is the
Found.
application?
where is it?
These are details,
Yeah,
but let's
they
get
are,
to these
this is
details.
for interim process, okay?
And some of that will translate to a full process too,
Yes, exactly,
things like the.
yes,
If the inquiry comes to me, what response am I getting?
okay.
That has already happened.
Uh-huh.
It's response from, Julie. Okay. To apps, all right, other,
I'm sorry, can I clarify, when you say this has already happened, so does that mean what is our preliminary response prior to us getting a process?
Just like to provide context here. Under communications, I used the communications agenda item the same way I use it for other boards, which is if the chair or the staff liaison gets a request or communication from an outside body
Prior to us having a process?
prior to us having a meeting,
Prior to us having a meeting, okay.
then that becomes a communication.
Ah.
So for instance, in the last 30 days, I got an email from Suzanne Cahill asking about a community preservation advisory board process. That communication is now showing up as a communication here on the agenda. To that email, I had to give some sort of reply.
So the question is,
The question
What
is,
is
so
the
somebody
response?
sends me in the interim before this is set up. It's already happened once now, and actually not twice, because I have my own proposal and then Sue has one. But if someone reaches out to me or Bert or anyone and says, hey, I have something I wanna do with the Community Preservation Advisory Board. Is the response? We're not ready yet?
We're still
Okay.
developing our process.
Yeah.
So,
so, okay, so we're not gonna decide that right now,
Yeah.
that's a question from the,
Yeah.
what's any other questions?
What's the timeline for finishing this,
Timeline for,
for interim to be over?
okay, for. Okay,
Is the board entertaining any use of the funds prior to having a full process?
okay. Well,
And is interim even on the table?
okay,
We need a further answer.
sure.
well, and maybe we can think of it sort of interim, but sort of like a working, like. To go through the process with an actual proposal will clarify a lot of things, like where are the gaps, what are we missing, what do we not have clarity around? So we could see it as sort of, yeah, it's like an interim. Trial thing.
That's good.
We can also, write in that we're, revising our process annually during the business meeting. You know, which we could get to the business meeting in January and say, it worked perfectly this year, there's no revisions, but if we have.
Yeah.
It written in there that we're going to revise it or review it. And potentially
I think
revise
that's
it
great.
each year, then.
Yeah.
That's a.
Okay.
So it's like it's a living process.
Yeah.
Any other questions that we need to?
And are we doing questions that aren't on here?
Yeah, I mean, this was for if us going through a process without having this hanging over our head. So let's deal with the interim process thing first. And so what those are the questions I was thinking.
I guess I have a question more about the process. Are we gonna require the applicant to come in and present to us so we can ask questions? And are we gonna require site visits to wherever we're gonna do his project?
That's not.
I would think site visits are required.
Do you have about-
What things you wanna recommend buying or doing something with if you haven't seen it?
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
but I will say the planning board
But
doesn't
it
go to
needs-
every site. I don't think, right, Kevin, the planning board doesn't go to every site, right?
So that would be part of the evaluation of the full application kind of thing. Or it could happen at the pre-app phase.
And I don't know if you have.
We
this
could all
already,
take turns
but,
with those site visits instead of making it all
Yeah,
on
otherwise
one
it's gonna be
person.
more.
Yeah.
But what's important to us as a city, like what do we value or what do we wanna, yeah, what are our values and what do we wanna preserve?
Where, and, I'm sorry, what was this?
Just like this criteria of what do we value?
Is
Yeah,
that different than that other flow chart that we made?
Yeah, I thought we started that.
yeah, but where does that come in? Is that? Yeah,
We answered that, where does that come in?
I kind of have that possibly here at the free app stage, that making sure it fits in, and then maybe with the evaluation piece. Maybe, and then we have this, nice, okay. But how do values come into this vision? I mean, this learning process too?
I would ask also the question of. Is any evaluation going to happen outside of the?
Any evaluation?
Sorry to interrupt. Are we gonna have enough time to talk about goals, or are we kind of talking about goals right now?
It feels like we're talking about
That's the
goals.
most important goal.
Yeah.
We just need to leave a little time for the firemen to exhibit, because that may be the trial run.
Okay, so let's outline what we're gonna do for this interim process, and it seems like with these questions here, let's just go through them and see how far we can get. First question to me, is, are we gonna do an interim process or not? So
Yes.
do folks wanna make a move that we do that?
Oh, make a motion?
Or something, I don't know, let's do it formally, right?
Yeah, why not?
Are folks okay with an interim process before we have, our fully whole process?
I make the motion that we adopt, we develop an interim process. Using Casey's idea of the trial run for certain projects.
To inform our process.
To inform. Is there a second?
Second.
Karen, all in favor?
Okay.
That's unanimous. Motion passes.
So we're having an interim process now. It seems like the next question that we need to answer is, our decision-making process. So if we have a proposal that comes in and we're going to evaluate it as a board, we think about how we're gonna do that. But what is our decision-making process? Are we a consensus board? Are we a vote and majority rules?
You also have scoring system.
Yeah, the scoring system as well, right?
I think maybe it should be majority rules, because there might be folks in this room who might have to abstain from votes.
Okay.
Yeah,
True.
I like the equity in the scoring process, but I also, that's a whole other thing.
To be clear, this is voting for individual projects.
It would be the vote to take a recommendation to the council for funding
Good,
the
okay.
project. Is that right? I think that's what we do.
That's good. I don't know if we can do majority rules. I think we need 4. We need 4, I think. It's the way.
Majority is half plus 1. So in this board, you need 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You need.
I like the.
It's 4.
Scoring.
It's 4? Yeah.
I
Okay.
like the scoring too.
It's either
Scoring.
1 quarter.
So I have a question.
Numbers can't lie.
Right,
Yeah,
Can we talk, can
What did you just say? I'm sorry.
I was naming that I like the scoring.
Oh,
idea.
scoring.
Mhm.
how does that work? I've never.
So scoring, I mean, we do that, the city does that in all of our practices for choosing for like an RFP. So like if I want to have, you know, put up who people up to build these widgets. Then we have a scoring committee and we say, okay, 20% goes towards how good are they at making widgets? 20% goes towards their reputation for, you know, what their actual product is, 20% goes for what their cost is. And so you would have to we would create criteria in advance that the applicants could know, like, we're gonna score this based on alignment with the CPP, value per acre, impact on the environment, number of people it targets, hot score on CPP, like whatever that criteria is. Or you could just do like, you know, shovel readiness, like whatever, it could be any criteria. And then you would assign a percentage of the score, and then each person would individually that say, okay, I'm looking at the proposal, I looked at pictures, I whatever data, and now I'm gonna fill out this criteria individually with no one else's input. Okay, how do I think the value of this is for whatever? And then you put a whole number, 1 through 5, you do half numbers, you do any fraction, 1 through 5. And if you put a 5, you then multiply the 5 times, okay, this is 20% of the score, and that gets a 1 or whatever, and then you add it up, and at the bottom, whoever it's. But in this case, we're ranking them against other applications, so I don't know the applicability here. Because you would have to then have that result in a yes or no.
I don't know who will resolve this.
And the question on that, though, you would still. Like if I was putting, if it was walkabout of interest, putting something forward, I would still abstain from that. So if I'm ranking against other. If I'm ranking that against other applicants, one person abstaining from that would automatically lower.
No, because then, so then if everyone puts in their score and everyone is like, okay, you gave this a 4.5, 4.7, 3.0, 2.1, whatever, you would then average everyone's. And you could say, we're only gonna fund something if it scores over 4.
So it doesn't
on
matter
average.
if you have one or
It
two
wouldn't
people
matter.
having to abstain.
Right, because then
Okay.
everyone would.
Just
that,
checking.
and
Thank you for clarifying.
Cause conflict, not that I think Kara would do this, but what if she has a project in and somebody else has a project in and Kara sabotages that other project's rankings? That create conflict?
Yes.
Yes, we would average it.
Well, I have an additional question. Could the ranking, the scoring just inform our vote? Does that make sense? Like,
Yes, like we actually vote at the end.
yeah,
We look at the scoring.
because even if something has a high score and something has a lower score, we might still make an exception for some particular reason.
So we start the process with the majority rules until we get a scoring system figured out. For these test run
Yeah,
projects.
yeah.
And the other thing about scoring is that, again, that scoring sheet would actually be foilable, so people could, like, if you denied it, people could say, okay, well, show me. You know, yeah, Adams, let me see how she rated my thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's way more transparent, and it's also much more informative than just saying, today I'm in a bad mood, so I'm voting no for everything I vote on today. Like,
But could there also be a way where it's more like a group, like not, it's more like a rubric, less than a scoring, like. Does this have public access? 1 point, yes, 0, no.
Yep.
So, and then there's just like a minimum, it's like you have to have at least 5 points.
Yep.
To be considered, if you don't have those 5 points, then we're not even gonna look at it, it's more like a gateway
Yep.
into the process.
Sounds good.
so, and that's how the CPP is actually set up. If it has a wetland, it gets 3 points, if it has a forest, it has X number of points, and then higher the score.
We're getting towards 9:30, and I don't know if we're gonna figure out, how we determine. Like this funding, but it's a great discussion to have, we can have it next month, we can continue this. This is awesome.
Want me to
Be doing-
grab something?
but
Yeah,
Want me to- I discussed that. Want me to do it?
yeah,
I'm sorry.
I didn't catch that, sorry.
You want me to draft something from Eli's document?
Yes, please.
previous draft decision tree
Yeah,
and the code, right?
and then we'll build. We made a lot of
And the
progress here.
community preservation plan itself. I think we have at least 4 elements.
Yeah, we've made a lot
Okay,
of progress.
okay. Well, I'll get it started and I have some of the questions here. I'll insert that into it and we'll move forward and we'll have some.
What I was gonna say then, okay, so there are 2 questions here. I know we're running out of time, but I don't wanna leave Julie hanging on this in terms of like, what is Julie's response? I do think we should provide guidance on that. So,
I can tell you, I did give a response already.
okay,
Tell
tell,
you what the response is.
sure,
Okay, so this is just in the first, in the matter of the volunteer firemen's exam. So I got an email on January 14th from Suzanne Cahill from the planning department that essentially said she's working on a firemen's museum uptown. They're looking at a new heating system for the building. It's a project that's been moved to a primary focus, considering the conditions. They're exploring options to consider. The current system is not operating safely and we need to take care of it. And she asked the mayor about the funding from CPAP. He said to discuss it with me. He knows that the parameters have not been established yet. So she reached out to me and I wrote back, thank you for reaching out. The CPAP is currently developing strategies and parameters for evaluating use of the funds, and they just started looking at historic properties. So there are still many lingering questions out there, not only about internal policies and procedures, but also on what is eligible under the law, which is being interpreted for us as we speak. At this point, I don't have an answer for you. However, more practically, there is also about $475,000 in the fund right now, and likely $450,000 might be going to pay for the Kingston Wilderness Bond. It is always accruing, of course. I'm not sure the timing is going to work out, but you could always submit a short written proposal requesting the use of the funds, and I can bring it to the board and see what they'd like to do. Our next meeting is January 8th, and I didn't hear anything back.
What is Suzanne Cahill's connection to the fire museum?
We own it,
This-
yes.
This came up at the HLPC as well, I think in the March 2025 meeting. But it did not in reference to the Community Preservation Fund though. Just in terms of the upgrades that they needed.
Well, this does go to sort of inform what we were talking about, percentages. And what we allowed to do for projects. You know, if we just had like this one thing that we want to preserve before it gets worse, if there's a way that we could help, theoretically, I'm not saying this particular, but yeah. And thinking about exhausting the fund on one thing versus like, how do we get a little bit to that and how do we help save that and also to.
Yeah, so I mean, essentially my answer was not ready yet.
Which is.
But how long
good
is,
answer.
how, is it, I mean, it was truth. The question is like, how long is that be answered?
yeah. Well, it seems like we're putting together an interim process. It seems like we're gonna finalize the interim process next meeting. And we will then have your proposal, most likely, and, so, I mean, that's,
Did write out those.
and we have this interim process, and then we're gonna have the formal process after that.
I mean, and you might have 2 proposals by that.
Well,
We'll have to decide.
Yeah.
It's we're a board.
yeah,
Can you have those questions that we came up with today that we have to, can we do offline discussions on just email chain back and forth with those like. Trying to develop that? Or is that like a,
As long as decisions aren't being made, but that's the thing, some of them are like decisions.
someone, well, I guess it would be more like, what are your thoughts on this, and then we can kind of.
I mean, you also
Calculate
make
all of our
consider
thoughts.
like, this is a really critical part of the board's history, maybe making like an interim meeting 2 weeks from now, instead of a month from now.
Well, what if there's an editable doc that we can all be working in? And then kind of working, and then, this will not against the inner meeting, but then we bring it to we've all kind of looked at it, put our input in. So we have more definitive things at the next meeting to be like, yes, no, this is good, we feel finalized about where this is, but we've like given a lot of input. Is that okay?
I think so.
Yeah,
We're not voting on it,
It's something where we can all comment on the side, like,
Yeah,
comments,
Yes.
whatever.
That's fine.
I'd be happy to do something like that together. How do I do that formally? Do I do it through you to then have it be something that's,
You just want a Google Doc with a,
that's what I'm thinking. And I can put all this in there and we can just be,
What about the text that Kevin offered to put together? How do
Yeah.
we-
yeah, I mean, it could be also just from the text that we can.
Okay.
yeah, if you,
Should that be step
Yeah,
one?
okay, yeah.
So we're not, there's no meeting in 2 weeks. We're gonna do this. Google Docs and then possibly 2. Can those proposals be in before the next meeting? Like, so we can at least read it?
I will put something together and you'll have it at least the same time that I'm sending out the agenda, I guess.
Okay,
I can't speak to what, I mean, based on my response, you'd probably look out, that's not an option.
then we can't entertain it.
But I did say
Well,
in
should we-
it. she
Maybe we
doesn't
should
get her
go
role.
back to her and say,
Yeah,
do we want, just because we want to practice?
Yes.
well, I mean,
We
Why not?
can't entertain, right? Giving them any money if they don't submit a proposal, so maybe we should just encourage them to submit a proposal, or deny them. It's that.
But then if she's like, what does the proposal look like?
Well, that's the problem, right, too, but I'm
it's
sure.
an emergency on the city's part.
Let,
Meeting.
have Stu reach out to me, because this is like right up my alley, working with RUPCO and community action. And they come in all, RUPCO's more formal, community action's not as formal. But you're looking for certain items. And it's okay, we're not, we don't have the regular application here, but we can entertain proposals. And,
If they've submitted a proposal to someone else, we could just say, change the heading, submit that to us, and that gives us an idea of what that kind of proposal might look like, and that might inform us on how we want to say this is the kind of thing we need to see in this.
yeah,
So
but
they don't
reach out
have
to
to
me.
necessarily do a whole bunch of extra things.
Reach out to me. Okay, this was great. Spiritual. Motion to adjourn?
can we confirm that we have an agenda
Oh.
for them at the next meeting?
Yeah, let's do that.
February 25th.
February 25th.
February 25th. Kevin, are you around February 25th?
Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah, that should be fine.
Be here. Unless I get stuff is in South Carolina, wherever I'm going, I'll be back.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Nico, seconds?
Thank you.
Seconds, Eli, all in favor? And unanimous, see you February 25th.
Thank you, Kevin.
Who made the motion? Shaniqua, did you make it?
Nico made the motion and Eli second.
I thought, okay, yeah, I heard Eli. Okay, great. Okay, later.
Yep.
Bye.